The dating landscape has undergone a radical shift, one where the very behaviors that once fostered connection now work against you. Where open communication and emotional availability were once valued, they're now often perceived as red flags. A man who texts consistently is clingy. A guy who asks meaningful questions is too intense. Someone who actually shows up with genuine interest is lacking options. The rules have flipped entirely. What was once considered romantic is now seen as desperate. Women today have been conditioned to associate a man's worth with how little he seems to care. If you're present, she assumes you must have nothing better going on. If you're transparent, she wonders why you're not more mysterious. The irony is that she spent hours obsessing over some aloof guy who barely acknowledges her, while dismissing the man who treats her with respect. The thrill isn't in being valued, it's in chasing validation. And so men who refuse to play these mind games get left behind, while those who master emotional withholding reap the rewards. This warped dynamic creates a lose-lose situation. If you communicate openly, you risk being labeled as needy. If you pull back to seem more desirable, you're accused of being emotionally unavailable. The truth is, many women don't actually want what they claim to want. They say they crave a man who's honest and engaged, but their attraction is often triggered by uncertainty, not stability. The more you make her wonder, the more she invests, even if what she's chasing is ultimately empty. The real tragedy? This isn't just about dating. It's about how modern relationships have become transactional rather than authentic. Connection has been replaced with games, vulnerability with strategy. Men who refuse to adapt either get discarded or learn to suppress their true nature, becoming colder versions of themselves just to survive. And in the end, nobody wins because a relationship built on manipulation can never fulfill what people truly crave: real intimacy. The modern dating scene operates on a dangerous paradox. Women claim to want security, yet they're chemically addicted to the roller coaster of emotional chaos. This isn't about conscious choice, but primal wiring. When a man is predictable, her nervous system disengages. When he's inconsistent, her dopamine spikes with every delayed text. The same psychological mechanisms that fuel gambling addiction keep women hooked on emotionally unavailable men. She complains about the guy who ghosts her for days, yet she's never more invested than when trying to decode his mixed signals. This addiction to uncertainty creates a brutal reality for genuine men. Your morning check-in texts don't trigger excitement. They register as boring reliability. Your thoughtful questions about her life don't spark connection. They make you seem too accessible. Meanwhile, the guy who can't even remember her coffee order has her checking her phone obsessively because his indifference creates space for her imagination to run wild. She's not falling for him, she's falling for the fantasy she's created to fill his silence, the cruelest twist. This chaos-chasing behavior often masks deep-seated emotional unavailability. Women who thrive on unstable connections are typically running from true intimacy themselves. They mistake anxiety butterflies for attraction, confusing the stress of uncertainty with passion. The stable guy who could actually love her well gets rejected not because he's lacking, but because he doesn't activate her trauma patterns. Her nervous system literally can't recognize safety as attractive. It's been programmed to associate love with suffering, This explains why so many women self-sabotage healthy connections while chasing toxic ones. It's not that they don't want love, they're just addicted to the emotional crack of intermittent reinforcement. The high of finally getting attention from someone distant is more potent than the steady warmth of someone present. Until this pattern is broken, both men and women remain trapped in a cycle where the healthiest expressions of love are the least desired. The moment a man realizes his authenticity is being punished, he faces an impossible choice: either abandon his true nature or remain perpetually single. This is where the performance begins. You start carefully crafting messages, not to express yourself, but to manipulate her interest. That thoughtful paragraph about your day gets deleted and replaced with a mysterious one-liner. Your natural urge to connect gets stifled because experience has taught you that emotional honesty leads to ghosting, the tragic irony. You're now doing exactly what works in modern dating, becoming less of yourself to seem more desirable. Women have no idea how thoroughly they train men to hide their genuine emotions. Every time she pulls away after you express care, every eye roll at your too serious conversation, every time she perks up when you act indifferent, she's programming you to be someone else. The sensitive, communicative man gets buried under layers of calculated aloofness. You start believing the problem isn't her inability to handle depth, but your neediness for wanting basic emotional reciprocity. The most heartbreaking part? You watch yourself becoming the very type of emotionally unavailable man women claim to hate. All because you adapted to survive the dating market. This performance doesn't just damage your chances at real connection, it erodes your self-respect. You feel the growing disconnect between who you are and who you pretend to be. The more you play the game, the more you resent both women for demanding this act and yourself for complying. Yet stepping off the stage seems impossible because raw honesty gets met with rejection. So you remain trapped in the role, smiling when you want to speak up, pretending not to care when you're deeply invested, slowly forgetting what authentic connection even feels like. The man you truly are becomes a ghost, haunting the hollow shell of your dating persona. The way out of this emotional prison isn't through playing the game better, it's by refusing to play at all. A truly masculine man doesn't contort himself to fit a woman's fleeting expectations. He communicates with clarity when it serves him, not when he's begging for scraps of attention. His texts aren't carefully crafted manipulations, they're intentional expressions of a man who values his own words. He understands that a woman's reaction to his authenticity isn't a measure of his worth, but a revelation of her emotional capacity. The moment she starts rewarding his silence over his substance, he recognizes this as her limitation, not his failure. The shift requires brutal self-honesty. Most men cling to toxic situations because they'd rather be chosen even under terrible terms than face the terrifying freedom of walking away. But real power comes when you stop negotiating for connection. You stop wondering if you texted too soon or shared too much and start observing whether she meets the energy you bring. If she matches your effort, she earns more of your presence. If she withdraws, you don't chase, you redirect your attention to what truly deserves it. This isn't about punishing her, but about respecting yourself too much to participate in dysfunctional dynamics. The paradox is that the less you need her validation, the more authentic your communication becomes. You stop using words as tools to extract affection and start speaking as a man who knows his value isn't determined by her response. Your texts become shorter but carry more weight. Your conversations grow deeper because you're no longer filtering yourself through fear. And strangely, this unshakable foundation in your own worth either transforms how women engage with you or rapidly exposes those who never deserved your truth in the first place. The path to breaking free from these toxic dating patterns isn't about learning new tricks, it's about returning to fundamental truths. Real connection can't be built on mind games, manufactured mystery, or emotional withdrawal. It requires two people willing to show up as they are, without pretense or manipulation. The right woman won't make you question whether your honesty is too much. She meet it with equal transparency. She won't punish consistency by labeling it as boring, but recognize it as the rare strength it actually is. Your job isn't to contort yourself to fit warped expectations, but to hold steady until you find someone who speaks the same emotional language. This demands patience. Most men don't have. It's tempting to revert to games when authenticity goes unrewarded, to chase after women who thrive on chaos simply because they're exciting. But the momentary high of intermittent validation will never compare to the deep fulfillment of being truly seen. Walk away from anyone who treats your presence like an option and your absence like a threat. Stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. The more you tolerate breadcrumbs, the longer you postpone the feast you actually deserve. There's an undeniable power in refusing to participate in dysfunctional dynamics. When you stop fearing loss, you gain everything. The women who were never meant for you will filter themselves out, leaving space for those capable of real connection. This isn't about becoming cold or closed off, it's about developing the discernment to know where your energy belongs. The healthiest relationships don't require you to silence parts of yourself to be loved. They challenge you to stand fully in your truth, then love you for it. That's the standard worth holding out for, nothing less.